is Shannon Schlottman, Solution Specialist here at VitalWare. Shannon, the show is yours. You now have the floor.
And thanks, Julie. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining me for the third installment here of the Innovation Series. Like Julie mentioned, we're going to go ahead and talk about the pharmacy component today. We're going to walk through how you can access that information in VitalKnowledge, and then also the pharmacy analysis that we have available within our CDM tool. Within VitalKnowledge, there's a couple of different ways that you can actually access the NDC information for drugs within our system. One of the things that we strived for when we built this application was kind of trying to put everything right at the end user's fingertips. So you're not having to jump from database to find the information that you're looking for. We try to present you with that information irregardless of where you're at within the system. So in this particular screenshot, you can see that I've taken you into the code lookup section of the tool here, and we're actually referencing this information from the CPT and HCPCS database. You can query for a drug in here by either a drug name or by a HCPCS code in the system. When you click on that code, it'll slide open the bottom panel, and the very last tab that you see over to the right-hand side, which is ringed there, is the National Drug Code tab. Clicking on that tab of information will actually provide you with all of the info that you would find in our NDC and pharmaceutical database. So if you happen to be in here looking up other information like revenue codes or medically unlikely edits or those types of things in regard to a particular HCPCS, you can tap into the NDC information from here as well. All of the components that you would find over in that other section of the tool are available for you to view here. So again, makes it really nice for you to be able to get to that information from one perspective or one piece of the tool. Now, of course, you can also, within the code lookup section of our application, go into the actual NDC and pharmacy tool. The benefit of doing that is we give you the ability here to search not only by a HCPCS or by a drug name, but you can also query by an NDC within this section of the application. And you can see there again in that ringed section on this screenshot, you have the ability to query even through portions of the NDC. So if you just want to utilize the middle section there, you can go ahead and populate information, and the system will pull forward results based off of just that section of characters there. So makes it really easy for you to find the information that you might need in the tool, regardless of whether you're looking up a specific NDC or whether you're kind of trying to look up a range of NDCs to find information on. Again, like I mentioned, you can query by a drug name in here and by a HCPCS as well. Now, once you have queried for a specific drug or HCPCS or NDC, we're going to provide you with quite a bit of information around that particular NDC code. You can see we have two different sources here. We have a proprietary source that provides us with a lot of information in regard to individual NDCs, and then we also have information from the FDA. We're going to produce for you the drug name from the labeler, of course the NDC, and the HCPCS that is appropriate to bill with that NDC code in this view. We also provide you with Medicare's long description, as well as the labeler that produces that particular drug in this view in the system, so you have access to all of that information. Additional components that we provide within the NDC and pharmaceutical data would be package size, unit of measure, package quantity. We do also provide you with the average wholesale price as well as the wholesale acquisition price within the application. This gives you the ability to utilize this information to compare to your costs or those types of things. We can also provide you with the product type, route of administration, single versus multi-dose per package and per each. And there's a couple of other additional components that you can place in your view utilizing the additional column section within our application. We did this giving you the ability to craft what you see within your screen, recognizing that different folks utilizing the application might need to see different pieces of information depending on their job duties. So as with all of the pieces of our application, you can go ahead and set your view and organize that in any way you want. And you'll notice that Save View button in the upper left-hand corner up there. This gives you the ability to save the way that you see that within the application, so you're always being served the information that is important to you. There are some other sections of our VitalKnowledge application that you might also find helpful in regard to the pharmaceutical component. For those of you who maybe are not familiar, MyAdvisor is a section of our application where you can, depending on your contract, you can submit questions to our expert coding team. They'll actually go out and do the research for you and then post a response back on the site. And our entire customer base has the ability to view any of those questions and responses. I went ahead and just entered in the first couple characters of the word chemotherapy here, and you can see there's, gosh, over 100 questions and responses that have to do with chemotherapy. Opening this question in regard to infusion charging shows you the view that you would have in looking through those questions and responses. You can see the question that was asked at the top and then the answer on the bottom. Our team that responds to these questions most often is going to provide you with the regulatory source or the citable source in case you're looking for this information to support an appeal or that type of thing. You can certainly get to that information within the tool and be directed there, most importantly with the response in MyAdvisor. Within the library section of VitalKnowledge, there are a couple different sections too that you can find pharmaceutical information on. You can see I went to the claims processing manual here and pulled up chapter 17, which has to do with drugs and biologicals. Within our application, you have the ability to tap into any of the publication 100 manuals, along with many other publications, as you can see in that drop down there. So being able to provide you access to all of the rules and regulations, searchable by code or by keyword, will take you to this important information that you all are governed by. Another section of the library here that could be helpful are the coding clinics. Again, I just went ahead and entered the keyword of chemo in here. And you can see there are 56 different volumes of the coding clinic that were populated based off of that search. You could open those just simply by clicking on the document name, and you would have access to that particular volume of the coding clinic to read about that, that information within the application. Within VitalKnowledge, another way that we're going to keep you on top of all of the ever-changing regulations is through our VitalAlerts. VitalAlerts are an email notification of any regular reimbursement or coding change that have been pushed out by CMS. We have a team of folks here at VitalWare that look through all of that documentation, be it one-time notifications or change proposals or Medlar Matters articles or those types of things, and they dissect that information down into departmental specific info. And we have the ability to take your user list and set up the appropriate people within your user list to the prospective departments that they work with. So in regard to pharmacy, we would be able to send you emails pinpointed having to do with just pharmaceutical information here. Within the system, you can query through the entire repository of alerts that we've ever pushed out. But remember, we're going to deliver these to your inbox so you're made aware of all of the changes that are happening within the industry as well. This is an example of what one of those would look like as it hits your inbox. We give you a summary, which is just a brief description of the change that's being made. So you can read that and then determine if you want to read further into the discussion. The discussion is much more detailed and would also provide you with links to any of those codes that are being changed. And then finally, we also give you a link into the actual documentation. So be it coming from a transmittal or from a MedLearn Matters article, you can actually click on the hyperlink and go directly to the document to read that in its entirety if you need to. So these are going to be delivered to your inbox, keeping you on top of those changes. Now, for those of you who have chargemaster responsibility, we also have the ability to set up what we refer to as CDM alerts. These alerts would query through your chargemaster, and a secondary alert would be delivered to you based off of the codes involved in the original VitalAlert. We would actually embed your charge lines in those CDM alerts, so you're made aware of what's changing, and then actually be driven to the charge lines within your chargemaster file that were affected by that change and potentially need to be fixed within your chargemaster file. So those are just some of the, medical necessity too. Let's talk about that. There may be some of you on the phone today that are responsible for ABNs, garnering ABNs from patients, especially in regard to some of the pharmaceutical information. We're seeing more and more very complicated medical necessity policies being written to dictate, diagnosis code usage in regard to a specific drug. In this particular case, you can see based off of the LCD issue column there, this particular drug, when you're billing that, actually has a requirement for 2 diagnosis codes to be billed to meet medical necessity in its entirety. Within the code validate section of our tool, we allow end users to enter in combinations of CPT or HCPCS codes in conjunction with diagnosis codes to see if you're meeting medical necessity. And I love that the LCD issues is going to tell you if you have an issue like that where you need to report a secondary diagnosis code as well. Then the overlay on that screen where we have the 2 green plus signs is an example of how the screen would read if we had actually reported both of those diagnosis codes together and met medical necessity. So this can be very helpful to registration staff or folks that are doing scheduling or those types of things in regard to pharmacy codes within and looking for medical necessity within the system. Also within the code validate section of our tool, we have the OPPS calculator. The OPPS calculator can actually be utilized entering in an administration code and then a drug code to find reimbursement specific to that code combination. The application will actually do that 340B discount for you as well. If you were to enter the JG modifier, you can see we dropped considerably in reimbursement specific to this code by entering that modifier here within the application. So this is a really easy way for you to be able to get to that reimbursement quickly if you were participating in the 340B program. Upcoming, you all are kind of getting a sneak peek here. We have actually recently written in a billable units calculator into our application. This is a prototype of what that's going to look like, and I think it's actually going to be released in our next code drop. This will allow your end users to enter in HCPCS codes, administered dosage, the units, and then over on the resulting screen, we will calculate the billable units for you. If you were to enter in the wasted amounts and that type of thing, the system will produce that information for you within the billable units calculator as well. That will live in our code validate, and like I mentioned, that should be released in our next code drop. Let's go ahead and talk about how the application, the CDM application rather, can help you in analyzing your chart or your pharmaceutical data within our system. Regardless of whether that pharmaceutical information is in your chargemaster file or whether it's a separate file that you load into our system, you can queue the pharmaceutical analysis to be run. The pharmaceutical analysis is really a staged analysis, meaning that we step through certain steps to produce the exception reports that we have available within the application. So the first thing that the system does is it takes a look at the national drug code that you have associated with that charge line, and it's looking for validity. If that particular NDC happens to be invalid, we'll go ahead and place that on a report for you to review. Invalid NDCs could be anything from a transposition error, where maybe you transposed a couple of numbers. Maybe you have some statistical NDCs within the system where you've used a fictitious number to track something. Those would also be exposed on that invalid report. So you can review them and ensure it isn't something that needs to be fixed, because if you're submitting claims with an invalid NDC, you're likely to be receiving denials for those. Once we have completed that portion of the analysis, we take all of the valid national drug codes and continue on analyzing that information. We can take a look at the HCPC that you have associated with that NDC to make sure it's appropriate. Or if you don't have a HCPC and there should be one, our reports will expose that for you as well. Once we have the HCPC identified, we can look at the revenue code linkage to that particular item to ensure that you're using the appropriate revenue code. We can also take a look at your description. We'll sit that side by side with the labeler's description and Medicare's description, so you can take a look at the nomenclature that you have associated with that charge line to ensure it's up to date and accurate. We can also take a look at pricing. The charges that you have in the system, we can compare that to the Medicare reimbursement amount and show you any variances that you have there to ensure that you're charging above that. We can also allow you to compare various components to that average wholesale price, as well as the wholesale acquisition cost. Within our system, you can pull in your acquisition cost as well, and we have cost to charge analytics that we can provide within the system as well, showing you again anywhere where you're charging below or above that cost. So those are really the standard reports that we have available within the system. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of those. This is that invalid NDC report. You can see here that those NDCs are red within our application. If you're familiar, anytime you see red data, be it for a revenue code or a CPT code or a modifier, that means that that's an invalid value. So again, you can look through these and determine if this is a transposition error or if you are indeed using this as a statistical counter charge line within the system. We do have the ability to display in your view here any of the fields of data that you've loaded into our system. You can see the acquisition cost is here as well. The NDC to HCPC mismatch report or missing report is taking a look at, of course, that HCPC value along with the NDC. You can see by clicking on the actual NDC number within the application, the bottom panel is initiated and opened, and in the NDC tab there, we can go ahead and provide the appropriate NDC code for you to reference so that you can get that changed in your pharmaceutical file and be billing appropriately. You can see there with any of those values that are missing as well, those white values in the HCPC column, you would again be able to reference that NDC number and get to the specific HCPC that you should be adding to that particular value so you're billing appropriately. Again, taking a look at that HCPC code, we can ensure that the revenue code that you have assigned to that charge line is appropriate. This is something, again, within our application, just a simple click of the HCPC will slide open that bottom panel with all of that VitalKnowledge application. Accessing the revenue code tab will provide you with a listing of the best practice codes that our coding and content team has put together. They utilized a couple of different sources to put that together. The rules from the National Uniform Billing Committee, the UB editor, they used any local or national coverage determinations that are out there to dictate revenue code usage, and then their expertise within the industry as well. And then beneath that, you'll notice that we have some information from the standard analytical file. We're able to take the information from that paid outpatient claim set from Medicare and tell you what revenue codes folks are using and what percentage they're using them on. So in this particular instance, we're looking at the A4216 code, and 71% of the time, almost 72% of the time, that particular code is billed out with the 272 charge code. And within our file, you can see here that we have that associated with the 637. So just providing you with substantiating information so you can see what other folks are doing, what our suggestions are, and get that shown up within your file so to ensure you're billing appropriately. The APC Payment Report is going to look at what you are charging for that particular drug. It's going to compare that to the average sales price allowable, which is actually that average sales price multiplied by the billable units for that particular drug. It's going to give you the variance between what you're charging and that amount is and provide you with either the above or below. You can see within our application if you're charging below, it's easily identifiable because it is in red. We're also going to give you that variance percentage so you can see how far below or above you're priced within the system. Our other pricing report gives you actually several other components that you can utilize within your view here. This is listing out your price along with the average sales price limit, billable units, the average sales price, which would be that reimbursement from Medicare there. It's giving you the average wholesale price rather, and it's also giving you access to the wholesale acquisition price. And then the allowable as well. Again, that's that average sales price multiplied out by those billable units. Any of our reports can be actually exported out into Excel, and you can use any of the bells and whistles in Excel to do any other calculations or any comparisons that you might need to. Another sneak peek, well, not really a sneak peek, but I'm going to mention it. In our Q4 release this year, we are going to be releasing calculatable fields. So this would give you the ability to utilize a field to put in a markup as an example. So you can use any of the fields of data that you've imported into our system, utilize a markup to calculate another field for you. So that should be coming into our system quickly, and you'll be able to do some of those calculations in our tool that typically you would do in Excel today. Like I mentioned, you can pull your acquisition cost into our applications as well. I know oftentimes the acquisition cost is housed in another system outside of the pharmaceutical applications that you use or outside of your chargemaster. We can merge that information into our system. If you attended the VitalView webinar with the Innovation Series, we talked about that quite a bit. So being able to pull that acquisition cost into the system gives you the ability to go ahead and compare your price to that acquisition cost. So again, you can see if you are charging above, or more importantly, if you're charging below what you are actually paying to get that drug, to buy that drug. So that is a very handy report within the application as well. The description variance report, this is pretty self-explanatory. Like I mentioned before, this will actually pull your drug name into the system. It'll give you the ability to see the Medicare description as well as the labeler's description for that drug so that you can ensure all of your units are appropriate, that you're using the appropriate nomenclature in your pharmacy file or in your chargemaster, whichever the case might be, so that you're using good descriptions within your files. One other thing that I did not screenshot that I definitely wanted to talk about, it's a little bit difficult to screenshot, but for those of you who have a pharmaceutical file and then have to create a charge line in your chargemaster. I wanted to make sure that you knew within our workflow system, we have the ability to reference your pharmaceutical file. So it gives you the ability to go ahead and create, to search through your pharmacy file and to pull in given points of information into your CDM charge line. So if you're pulling the HCPCS code and potentially the cost or price or any of those fields of data that need to transition from your pharmaceutical file into your chargemaster, we can accommodate the transition of that data from one file to another and just a very simplistic searching functionality within the application. So it makes it really easy to get that pharmaceutical information into your CDM file if that's how you manage that data at your hospital. So hopefully I've shown you some components of our VitalKnowledge and our Vital CDM tool that will help you manage your pharmaceutical data, both just from the standpoint of being able to look up information and also from the standpoint of being able to analyze your files and be able to fix anything within your system. That's everything that I have prepared today. If you have any questions, you can feel free to push those through the chat section.
Yes, Shannon. Thank you so much. That was great. That was wonderful. And as I said prior to Shannon starting, that we would go through questions and answers as time permits. And it looks like she is actually right on time. So time does not permit today. So for the sake of keeping everyone's schedules in mind, we are going to close this webinar. We will take all of the questions that everyone submitted, provide an answer, and send an FAQ document with that information within 3 to 5 business days. If you'd like for more information on what you saw today, please reach out to your account manager if you're an existing VitalWare client. Or go ahead and email me directly at juliegraham@vitalware.com. And to stay up to date on webinars and for future webinars, we invite you to follow us on LinkedIn. And you can visit our brand new website that we just launched last week to find all of the upcoming webinars and register for each of those. So thanks again for joining us, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Shannon. You did a great job.
Thanks, Julie. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Okay.